Do you really know what your mother would do to protect you? I was told I could never leave the house, and at first I thought it was just fear, but what I discovered inside was something I could never forget. She hid secrets, dark, terrifying secrets, things that would shock anyone. There were nights I heard voices I shouldn't hear, shadows that shouldn't exist, and then I learned the truth about what she was willing to do to keep me safe. By the end of this video, you'll understand why I was never allowed outside, and why some things are better left unseen. But be warned, some moments are too frightening to forget, and some actions too cruel to believe. Do you dare to see what really happened inside that house? I woke up to whispers. At first, I thought it was a dream, but the voices were too distinct, too close. My mother always told me never to leave the house, never to look out the windows, never to answer the door. She said the world outside was dangerous, full of people who wanted to take us apart. I had never questioned her, never tried to step beyond the threshold of our home, but this morning I felt a cold shiver of doubt. Something had changed. "Lila, breakfast," my mother said, her voice calm, soothing, almost too calm. She appeared in the doorway, carrying a steaming cup of tea. The faint aroma of chamomile filled the room, and for a moment I wanted to believe everything was normal, but the whispering had not stopped. It was growing louder. "What's that sound?" I asked, my voice trembling. My mother froze for a second, just enough to make my heart skip a beat. Nothing," she said softly, placing the cup on the nightstand. "It's just the wind talking." "But I hear voices," I insisted, pressing my ear to the door, straining to hear. She sat on the edge of the bed and took my hand. Her grip was warm, firm, grounding. "Lila, sometimes the wind tells stories, terrible stories, but you must never follow them. Stay inside, stay safe, always inside." I nodded, though a sense of unease had already taken root. I could feel it crawling up my spine. I had never questioned her before, but today something deep inside me whispered that there was more to this house than she had ever told me. Breakfast was silent, the kind of silence that presses on your chest. The old clock on the wall ticked methodically, almost threateningly, and every second felt like an eternity. I couldn't stop glancing at the corners of the room, half expecting to see shadows moving. "Mama," I said finally, unable to hold it in any longer, "why do we never leave the house, ever?" She paused, spoon midair, and looked at me. Her eyes were calm, but I could see the faintest flicker of something else. Fear, maybe, or sadness. "Because, Lila, some things outside this house are dangerous, things you could never understand. Some people would see you and want to destroy you." I frowned. "Destroy me? How? Why?" She sighed and set her spoon down. "I know it's hard to believe, but there are forces in the world, forces that hunt. They've been hunting us for a long time, and I will do whatever it takes to keep you safe, even if it means never letting you leave." Her words should have frightened me, but instead they sparked a different kind of fear, a curiosity that burned hotter than anything I had ever felt. I wanted to see, I wanted to know. That afternoon, while she was preparing lunch, I noticed something I had never seen before. A small drawer in the corner of the kitchen, slightly ajar. It wasn't just a drawer, it was a compartment, and inside were objects that seemed out of place. A thin silver knife, several folded notes covered in strange symbols, and photographs of people I didn't recognize, their eyes crossed out with black ink. "What's this?" I asked, my voice low, trying not to let her hear me. My mother froze again, then turned slowly, her face impassive. "That's nothing for you to worry about, Lila," but there was a tremor in her voice. "I saw it," I said, stepping closer. Tell me, please, what are these?" She hesitated, then motioned for me to sit down. "If I tell you, you must promise never to repeat it, never speak of it to anyone. Promise me, Lila?" "I promise," I whispered, my heart hammering. She took a deep breath. "Those are tools to protect us. The photographs, they are of people who tried to find us. Some succeeded, some did not. I cannot explain everything, but know this. The world outside is not what it seems, and I cannot allow anything to touch you." I swallowed hard, the fear in my chest twisting into something else, dread and fascination all at once. I wanted to ask more, to understand, but something in her eyes stopped me. She wasn't just warning me, she was preparing me. That night, I lay in bed, listening to the wind and the whispers that seemed to seep through the walls. I tried to call out to her, to ask her everything at once, but the fear in me was too strong. Instead, I watched her move through the house, quietly checking doors and windows, her eyes sharp and calculating. She looked like a guardian of some ancient secret. A week passed, and the whispers grew louder. I began noticing shadows that didn't belong to anyone, glimpses of figures in the corner of my vision that vanished when I turned my head. I tried to tell my mother, but she only smiled and said, "You're growing stronger, Lila. You'll learn to see what I see, to hear what I hear, but you must never leave. Not yet." Then came the night I couldn't sleep. The shadows in the hallways coalesced, forming a figure I could just barely make out. I wanted to scream, but my body was frozen. A hand on my shoulder startled me. My mother was there, holding a lantern. "Shh," she whispered. "They are close tonight." "Who?" I asked, my voice shaking. "The hunters," she said. "Those who have been searching for us all our lives, and they will not stop until they find you." I wanted to pull away, to run, but she held me firmly. "Listen to me, Lila. You must trust me. If you step outside this house, if you ever leave, they will take you. They will hurt you. Only I can protect you." I nodded silently, unable to speak, my mind racing. My mother had always been strict, overprotective, but I never realized how far her caution went. Now I understood. The warnings were real, the whispers were real, and the danger was real. That morning, I found a small envelope under my pillow. Inside was a note in my mother's handwriting. "Do not trust your eyes. The world is a lie. Everything you know outside is designed to trap you. Stay safe. Stay hidden." I felt a chill run through me. For the first time, I realized that my mother's fear was not paranoia, it was survival. And yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was living in a prison, beautiful and dangerous in ways I could not understand. That day, I started exploring the corners of the house I had never dared enter before. Behind the old bookcases, under the loose floorboards, I found tiny cameras, hidden microphones, and strange symbols etched into the walls. Everything pointed to one thing. My mother was preparing for something terrible, and I was at the center of it. "Mama," I said that evening, my voice trembling, "why all this? Why are we hiding like this?" She looked at me, her eyes calm but unyielding. "Because, Lila, some people would destroy what they cannot control, and they would destroy you. You are precious. You are the reason I fight every day." Her words should have comforted me, but they filled me with fear instead. Fear for my life, fear for her life, and a growing terror that whatever she was protecting me from was still out there, waiting. Later that night, I heard the whispers again, louder than ever. I tried to ignore them, but they spoke my name, and I could feel the walls of the house closing in. My mother came to my room, placing her hand on my forehead. "You hear them, don't you?" she asked softly. I nodded. "They will come," she said. "One day, they will find us. But until then, we must be clever. We must be ready. You must trust me, Lila. You must stay inside. Always." I nodded again, but my mind was racing. I wanted to escape, to run, to see the world beyond our walls. But deep down, I knew she was right. Whatever waited outside would not let me go without a fight. As I drifted into an uneasy sleep, I realized that my life had changed forever. The house was no longer just a home. It was a fortress, a cage, and a battlefield all at once. And I was at the center of it, protected by a mother who was willing to do anything, anything at all, to keep me alive. The days blurred together. Life inside the house had become a strange routine of whispered warnings, locked doors, and constant vigilance. I tried to focus on small tasks, reading, drawing, tidying rooms, but my mind was always elsewhere, turning over the things I had seen, the hidden cameras, the photographs with blacked-out eyes, the knife in the drawer. My mother moved through the house like a shadow, always silent, always watching. One evening, I noticed that the front door was slightly ajar. My heart leapt into my throat. No one ever opened it unless she was with me. I approached slowly, and from the edge of the hallway, I could see her standing by the doorway, listening. "Mama, what's going on?" I asked, my voice trembling. She turned to me, eyes sharp, almost predatory. "They've been here," she said simply. "Who?" "The people who watch us, Lila. They test the house. They probe the walls. They want to know if we're vulnerable." I took a step back. But why? Who are they? What do they want with us? "They want control. They want to take what I am protecting," she said. Her tone was firm, final. "And if they succeed, you will not survive." I felt my stomach twist. "And what about you? Won't they hurt you too?" She smiled faintly, almost bitterly. "I will do what I must, always, to keep you safe." I wanted to understand, to ask more questions, but she turned and walked away, leaving me trembling in the hallway. Later that night, I couldn't sleep. The whispers had returned, louder now, almost chanting my name. I slipped from my bed and crept to the window. Outside, the street was empty, but I could see faint shadows moving. I froze, unsure if I was seeing reality or imagination. A sudden creak behind me made me spin around. My mother stood there, hands on her hips. "You shouldn't be looking," she said softly but firmly. I just wanted to see," I stammered. "Seeing will get you killed," she said, stepping closer. "The world outside is not safe, not for you, not for me. And one day, if we are careless, they will come for us." I wanted to scream, to cry, but my voice failed me. Instead, I watched as she moved back into the shadows of the hallway, her presence both comforting and terrifying. The following morning, I awoke to a strange sound, a soft scratching, almost like fingernails on wood. I followed it down the hall to the kitchen, where my mother was kneeling near the wall, tracing symbols with chalk. "Mama, what are you doing?" She didn't look up. "Protection," she said simply. "Symbols to confuse them, to keep them away. They rely on certain patterns to track us. These are mine." I frowned. "But why don't you tell me what they are?" "Because, Lila," she finally said, meeting my eyes, "some knowledge is dangerous. Knowing too much can destroy your mind before they even reach you." Her words chilled me. I wanted to argue, to insist that I could handle the truth, but a strange feeling told me that she was right. And yet, curiosity gnawed at me. Every hidden object, every locked door, every whispered warning only made me want to see beyond the house even more. That evening, she called me to the basement. I had never been down there before. She always said it was too dangerous. But today, her urgency had an echo I couldn't ignore.
"Come," she said, holding the lantern high. I followed her down the narrow stairs, my hands gripping the railing, heart hammering. At the bottom, the air was cold and damp. The basement was lined with shelves filled with strange items, old bottles, metal tools, books with pages that seemed to crawl with symbols I didn't recognize. And in the center, a table with photographs, maps, and documents spread across the earth. "What is all this?" I whispered. "They are records," she said, pointing to the photographs, "of people who tried to find us. Some were curious, some were careless. All of them disappeared." I swallowed hard. Disappear? "They are gone, Lila, for good. And if you ever leave this house, that will be you." I stared at her, a mix of fear and disbelief churning in my stomach. "But Mama, how do you know this? How do you do all of this?" She looked at me with something that resembled both pride and sorrow. "I learned. I had to protect you. Every day I prepare. Every day I plan. And one day, it may not be enough." I wanted to scream at her, to demand she explain everything, but I couldn't. Instead, I nodded, though my mind was racing. Something terrible was out there, and we were hiding from it. Days turned into weeks, and the tension in the house grew unbearable. The whispers seemed to seep into every corner, every shadow, every heartbeat. I began to notice things that didn't make sense. Footprints that appeared overnight, faint noises in the walls, cameras hidden behind picture frames that weren't there before. One night, I found myself standing outside my bedroom door, listening. There was movement in the hall, faint but deliberate. My mother's voice whispered my name, soft, commanding. "Lila, stay quiet. Do not move." I froze, barely breathing. A figure appeared at the end of the hallway, a silhouette against the dim light. My mother stepped forward, her movements smooth, precise like a predator. The figure stopped, seemed to hesitate, then retreated into the darkness. "They are testing us," she said, once the danger had passed. "Tonight, they wanted to see if you were alone, if I were careless." I didn't finish her sentence. I knew what she meant. My mind reeled with questions. Who were these people? What did they want? And why had she kept me from the truth for so long? The following day, she began to train me. She showed me how to move silently, how to observe without being seen, how to recognize the signs of danger. I learned to read the symbols she drew on the walls, to notice patterns in the whispers, to anticipate threats before they came. "Mama, am I ready?" I asked, exhausted from hours of training. "You will never be ready," she said, "but you must always be prepared. They are patient, and so must we be." Her words both frightened and fascinated me. I wanted to hate her for keeping me locked away, for making my life a constant state of fear. And yet, I couldn't. Every action, every rule, every whispered warning was a shield, a lifeline. Weeks later, I discovered something that changed everything. While exploring a hidden passage behind the bookcase in the study, I found a room I had never seen. Inside were dozens of objects. Some appeared ceremonial, others looked like weapons, and in the center, a small, worn book bound in leather. I opened it and found my mother's handwriting covering every page. Accounts of people who had tried to find us, diagrams, strategies, lists of names. "Mama, what is this?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper.
He appeared behind me, expression unreadable. "History, preparation, knowledge, everything I have done for you, for your life." I felt a mix of awe and horror. She had been living a double life for me, keeping a terrifying secret that I had only glimpsed, and now the burden of knowing, even a fraction of it, weighed heavily on me. The next night, the whispers returned, louder than ever. I lay in bed, listening to them, my mind spinning. I wanted to ask my mother about what I had found, but something in me hesitated. Perhaps some truths were too dangerous to speak aloud. Finally, she entered my room, lantern in hand, eyes sharp and bright in the dim light. "They will come," she said simply, "and when they do, you must trust me, always, no matter what you see, no matter what you hear, no matter what you think you understand." I nodded silently, my heart hammering in my chest. I had come to understand one thing with terrifying clarity. My mother's world was not like anyone else's. The dangers were real, the threats immediate, and the stakes unimaginable. And somewhere outside I knew the hunters were waiting. The night arrived with a suffocating silence. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath, as if the world itself knew what was coming. I couldn't sleep. Every shadow in my room felt alive, every creak of the floorboards like a warning. I lay under my blanket, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything I had learned, the symbols, the hidden passages, the drills my mother had made me practice. I was ready, or at least I thought I was. A sudden sound made me bolt upright. There was movement outside my bedroom door, a faint scraping like nails on wood. My mother appeared instantly, her lantern casting long, sharp shadows across the walls. "Leela, stay still. Do not breathe too loudly," she whispered, her voice like steel wrapped in silk. "What is it? Who is there?" "They are here," she said, stepping forward, her hand on the hilt of the knife she always carried. "They have found us." I felt a surge of panic, but beneath it, a strange, electrifying clarity. This was what we had prepared for. This was why I had trained, why I had learned. This was why my mother had kept me hidden all these years. She motioned for me to follow her silently down the narrow hallway, through the kitchen, into the basement. The hidden room she had shown me before now seemed like a fortress. Symbols covered the walls, objects arranged with meticulous precision, and a series of small monitors flickered with grainy images of the street outside. Shadows moved across them, figures in dark coats, moving slowly, deliberately, like predators circling their prey. "They're testing us first," she said, her eyes never leaving the screens. "They always test. They want to see if we are ready, if we are vigilant." I nodded. My hands shook, but my mind was clear. I was watching, listening, understanding the patterns of their movements. And then, suddenly, one of them made a mistake. A shadow lingered too long near a window. My mother's eyes sharpened. "Leela, watch carefully. See the hesitation? That is weakness. That is our chance." We moved together, silently, shadows within shadows. She handed me a small dagger. "If they cross the line, you will defend yourself. Do not hesitate. Do not falter." I nodded again, gripping the dagger tightly. My heart pounded, but fear had become something different, focused, controlled. Minutes stretched into hours. The figures outside began to retreat and regroup, but then a crash echoed from the front door. One had forced the lock, and now they were inside. "Mama," I whispered, barely able to speak. "Stay calm," she said. "Trust me." The first figure entered the hallway. My mother struck first, silent, precise, almost inhuman. I watched, frozen and horrified, as the intruder fell, a whisper of movement, and then nothing. "Leela," she said, her eyes locking with mine, "now you must act." I stepped forward, adrenaline surging through me. The second intruder moved towards us, unaware of my presence. I lunged, the dagger slicing through the air. He fell with a cry that echoed in the basement. I stood there, trembling, staring at the body. My mother's face was pale, but her eyes were steady, almost serene. "Good," she said softly. "You did not hesitate. That is how you survive." But the relief was short-lived. From the monitors, I saw more shadows moving, dozens now, surrounding the house, circling like wolves. I realized with a sickening clarity, this was only the beginning. "They will not stop," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Not until we are gone, not until you are gone. And I will do anything to protect you." Suddenly, one of the intruders burst into the basement. My mother reacted instantly, throwing a heavy candlestick, knocking him back. I struck again with the dagger. The room was chaos, screams and shouts mingling with the pounding of our hearts. Then, in a moment of terrifying clarity, I saw him, the leader, the one my mother had been most afraid of. He moved with a calculated, almost supernatural precision, cutting through shadows as if he were hunting a ghost. And then he saw us. "Mama," I whispered, fear gripping me. She smiled faintly. "Stay behind me, Leela. Watch closely." The enemy advanced. My mother raised her hands, almost as if she were negotiating with a force I could not see. And then, in a motion too fast to comprehend, she struck him. The enemy fell, but not dead, alive, trembling, staring at her with something like awe and fear. "They know you are not ordinary," he gasped. They know what you are capable of." "What do you mean?" I asked, horror and fascination twisting inside me. "They will never stop," my mother said, "but we have the advantage. Knowledge, preparation, love, these are weapons they do not understand." The intruders retreated, disappearing into the night, leaving a silence that was almost unbearable. I sank to the floor, exhausted, trembling. My mother knelt beside me, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "You are safe, for now," she said softly. I wanted to speak, to thank her, to scream in relief, but instead I only shook my head. "Mama, why? Why do they want us? Why have you hidden me all these years?" She looked at me with a mixture of pride and sadness. "Because, Leela, the world is not kind to the innocent, and you are precious. Everything I have done for you. But one day you will understand. One day you will understand why some truths are too dangerous to speak aloud." I felt a surge of anger and fear. I understand that you've kept me locked up, that you've made me live in fear." "Yes," she said, nodding, "and I would do it again, because I love you, because I will not let them take you, and if it comes to it, because I will take them first." The weight of her words hit me like a hammer. I realized the full scope of what she had done. Every lesson, every secret, every hidden object, every whispered warning, it had all been for survival, not just ours, but mine. And then, in the quiet aftermath, I made a choice. I stood beside her, feeling a strange, terrifying sense of power. I was no longer just a child hiding in shadows. I was a participant, a guardian, a weapon. And the world outside, it could not touch me, not if I stayed with her. The dawn broke slowly, pale light filtering through the cracks in the blinds. The house was still, but I knew the shadows were still out there, watching, waiting. My mother and I stood together in the basement, silent but connected, bound by fear, love, and something darker, a promise that we would not be taken, no matter the cost. And for the first time, I felt it. The exhilaration of survival, the terrifying clarity of power, and the chilling understanding that love can be both a shield and a weapon. I looked at her and she looked at me. In that moment, I understood the truth I had been avoiding. She had raised me to face the world, to fight the darkness, to be strong, not for herself, but for me. And I knew, with a strange mixture of awe and dread, that nothing would ever be the same again. The whispers had stopped, for now, but I knew they would return. They always returned. And next time, we would be ready. But deep inside, a tiny, stubborn fear remained. What if one day, even we were not enough?